This video is entitled Time Value of Money Net Cash Flow, or NCF, and it is number 3 in my financial calculations review. I'm Dr. Renaud from Shawnee State University, and I'll be taking you through this quick video presentation. Net cash flow basically calculates the present value of a series of flows of cash, either incomes or expenses, in the future to come up with that flow's present value. How do we look at a series of cash flows and compare them equal to each other? Well, by bringing them to today. So to calculate a net cash flow, we calculate the present value of each cash flow in the period that the cash flow exists in, and then add them all together. The formula is as follows: NCF equals the sum of the present value of each of the cash flows, or you see FV sub n divided by 1 plus R to the n, where n is the period, R is the return, rate of return or rate of investment, and FV is the amount of the cash flow. So here's an example of net cash flow. Let's imagine that you can invest money today at an interest rate or at a rate of 8%. What is this flow worth to you? $10,000 in a year, $20,000 in 2 years, and $15,000 in 3 years. What is that really worth to you in today's dollars? That $45,000 is a lot of money, but what's that really worth again in today's value? What's the net cash flow? And what we do is we say, well, that first $10,000 is a year away, so we calculate the present value of $92,500. We then calculate the present value of the flow in year at the end of year 2 years away, at $17,146. The $15,000 calculated at 8% 3 years away would be $11,907, for a total of $38,313. So the present value of that flow of money would be $38,313. Now, if I were to offer you $40,000 for that cash flow, I'll give you $40,000 today, and I get the $10,000, $20,000, and $15,000. You're going to jump on it, aren't you? Because I'm giving you better than 8%, which is what you can get. So that's a great deal. What if I said, I give you $30,000, I give you $32,000 today? Well, no, no. That's not enough. I need more than that, or I'm just going to let it ride. And you can see how that calculation was made and how you were able to make that decision. Here's another example, except instead of getting money in, this example is about spending money. You want to buy a new ATV. You've got your eye on this fancy new four-wheeler you're going to take out and get muddy. You can pay $3,000 a year for 6 payments starting today. So your first payment is right now, today, and then for the next 5 years you'll be making $3,000 a year payments. Or you can pull $15,500 in cash from an investment that you're right now making 8% on. So you've got the money. You can buy it today with cash, but you'll have to pull it out of an investment that you already have earning 8%. Does it make sense to pay it over time, or does it make sense to pull the money out of your investment? Well, let's calculate the net cash flow at 8% on the money. So the first payment is due today. So N would be 0 right now. The period would be 0. So the first payment of $3,000 has a present value of $3,000 because it's today's money that you're giving the first payment. And then the subsequent 5 payments, 1 payment in a year, a payment in 2 years, a payment in 3 years, a payment in 4, and a payment in 5. You can see how I calculate the present value of each of those 6 payments, and I add them up for a net present value of $14,878. You're going to pay a total of $18,000, but If you'd left the money in your investment earning 8%, you would only have to pull out $14,978 today to pay for it. So, does it make more sense to pay it over time, or does it make more sense to pay it today and pull the money out of your 8% investment? Well, it makes more sense to pay it over time because the net cash flow is $14,978, which is less than what they were saying they wanted for you to pay it up front in a lump sum. It's a decision you got to make, but again, here's a way to make a really informed decision about two completely different scenarios. So, here are the formulas I used to calculate this all in a spreadsheet, and you can see that in cells A3 through A8, I have the number of periods in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have the cash flows, so the cash flow for N1 or N0 is in B3. The cash flow for N1 is in B4. Then you can see that I have the interest rate, the rate of return, in cell C1. And then I have my formulas running down the column C from C3 to C8. Notice that I use a $C$1 as the cell reference for the interest rate, so that when I copy the formula, the interest rate cell doesn't change. It's called an absolute reference to the cell in your spreadsheet. You should know how to do that. I then sum up the total of the future values, and then I sum up the total of the present values, and that's how I came up with our example. I'm also including some code in Python to do the same calculations. The first thing is I'm using the def present value from review 2 that I wrote in the previous presentation to calculate the present value from a future value. You then see that I've got a function called NCF that I pass it a list of cash flows, and the first one is cash flow 0, the second one is cash flow 1, the third one is cash flow 2. So I just create a list of the various cash flows when they're going to happen, and then I pass it the interest rate. You can see that I have a variable called total. I then loop through and find the n, use n to extract the cash flow, calling the PV function and then adding it back to total. So by the time I'm done with the loop, I now have the sum of all of the cash flows, the sum of all the present values of all the cash flows in their correct period, and then I return the total. And you can see there's the answer again from example 1 and example 2 using a Python program to find those. This concludes the third video in our review session on net cash flows. Please see the entire financial calculation series here on YouTube. Remember to like or subscribe if you liked it. If you found it helpful, I'd appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, if you see any errors or anything else, please contact me at jrenault@shawnee.edu. Remember, this presentation is copyright 2022 by James M. Renault, PhD. All rights are reserved under copyright. I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the future.